And I know some of y'all are watching this right now thinking, David, you supraphysiological you're lying to us. You're not doing TRT. You're blasting. You're doing a cycle, bro. What's wrong with you?
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplaysmoredates.com. I saw the, was looking out the window and I saw the Supraphysiological bat signal in the sky. So that means somebody's talking about TRT on YouTube. So that means I need to fucking swoop in and do a reaction video. So here I fucking am. My updated experience on TRT, losing hair, question mark. Lowering my dose, question mark. Plus full blood work by How To Beast. So I fast forwarded to the part where he's about to go over his biomarkers, and I don't know, I guess you might skip around a bit because it looks like this is like a vlog mixed with like a video about his TRT.
All right, so let's start by looking at some general health markers. These are my cholesterol and triglyceride levels. As you guys can see, everything's green. That means everything is good. However, my HDL...
So yeah, everything looks reasonable.
Even though it's green, it's at 54, and honestly, I'd like to see that above 60. When you take TRT, it can drive your HDL down a little bit, and that's not good for your heart. And one reason I think mine's not as high as it should be is because leading up to the recent Edge launch, I've been stressed out. I haven't been sleeping as well the last few weeks. My diet hasn't been great, and I haven't been consistent with my supplements. One of those supplements being krill oil, which contains omega-3s, which can play a big part in helping maintain high HDL levels. So hopefully we get that back up there.
Add in 1,500 milligrams of citrus bergamot to your supplement protocol, and that'll help a fair bit. And I guess we'll find out what your estrogen management is like, but that will play a big role in lipid modulation. So we shall see what your HDL or what your TRT protocol is like before I make further comments. But obviously diet plays a big role. Well, actually sort of when it comes to TRT induced HDL suppression. It's more like your LDL is more going to be manipulated by diet practices. Your HDL is pretty hard to elevate via, like, obviously having a shit diet, being insulin resistant, all this stuff does not help. But the main thing that I'm gonna wanna see is his estrogen control to see if that is playing a role in this low HDL or not. And frankly, 54 for a guy on his dose, like I've seen one of his TRT videos before and it wasn't a low dose if I recall correctly. So a 54 is not horrible. I've seen much worse for guys on TRT. Obviously above 60 would be ideal though.
Back up there. And if we look at my LDL, that's your bad cholesterol, 75, that's a good number.
I'd rather see it under 70 just for peace of mind, but that would be me.
Now, if we look at my liver enzymes and liver levels, you can see everything is green.
Obviously that's context dependent too though. Like obviously in the absence of sufficient amounts of inflammation, it's not really problematic, but still, I'm just going based off of the hordes of cardiology data we have to reference and kind of just having peace of mind in all different aspects. That would be a number you would sort of want to shoot for ideally if you wanted to minimize your chance of plaque buildup.
It's green, everything's in range, good to go. If you get down to the kidney, scroll down a little bit, you can see there's a couple items that are out of range here. However, that's not TRT related. From every research I've done, this is normal when you have higher protein intake. And as far as I know, it's not something to be concerned about. But again, I'm not a doctor. Now,
so yeah, in general, if you have more muscle mass and you have higher protein intake, especially if you're training, like I don't know, there's no context here of when he trained, before the blood test. Like I don't know how recent it was, but obviously even if you train within a couple days, do a hard session within a few days of your blood test, it can have some effect on some of these biomarkers. So, that would be some context, but in general, I would keep an eye on it, but having a EGFR based on a creatinine measurement that is 90 is not bad at all. I've seen bodybuilders and guys on TRT with much worse, and they have to get some subsequent cystatin C calculated EGFRs in order to figure out if they actually have kidney damage or some shit. So, I would definitely take a couple days off before the next test and keep an eye on this ratio. But yeah, in general, that is more of just not a red flag, but more of something to just keep an eye on.
As far as I know, it's not something to be concerned about. But again, I'm not a doctor. Now, if we get down to my red blood cell levels, this is where there can be some issues on TRT. You can see my hematocrit is red. It's above the range. I mean, it was at 54 in September. It's down to 52, so that's a positive trend. But this means that my red blood cell count is high, and that's kind of normal and expected on TRT. It's still not a good thing, but again, from the research I've done, if your platelet count, which you can see above here, is good, it's not something to be concerned about. Again, I'd still like to see it lower, but we'll talk more about that in a second. The other good news is you can see...
One thing to keep in mind too is hydration. Some people go into these blood tests, you know, fasted, because you think you're supposed to be fasted when you go in for the blood test. You go in the morning, you just wake up. And what a lot of people don't realize is how dehydrated they are when they're going in, having just woken up, rolled out of bed, and gone to the LabCorp or whatever. And then they get this like fucked up kidney values, fucked up hematology, all because they didn't just hydrate properly before the blood test. So that is something to keep in mind as well.
As you can see, my hemoglobin was above range, but it's actually came back down into range in this most recent test. If we scroll down, you can see my white blood cell counts are all good, G. And if we click other, this is my estrogen. So my estrogen was at 61, it's down to 51, which is a good thing. But like, I know a lot of people see a high estrogen number, they're like, it's above range, you're turning into a female, David, where your bitch tits are about to start popping out of your hoodie. Bro, it's such an old way of thinking to think that high estrogen is bad. Again, if you're on TRT, because when your testosterone goes up, some percentage of that converts to estrogen, so it's normal for your estrogen to go up. And what's more important than the number is the ratio of estrogen to testosterone. You want them to both kind of, you know, rise in unison. And if you're someone who's doing TRT and your doctor still has you on an estrogen blocker like Arimidex or an estradiol, that's not a good thing, because when you crash your estrogen, it can lead to a lot of negative health consequences.
So in general, anybody who would take, even if it's just TRT, and then not expect a parallel increase in estrogen, and especially like, I'm pretty damn sure this guy's TRT, the last I checked, was like supraphysiological, like borderline, like, I don't know, sports TRT essentially. Expecting your estrogen to not be out of range when your testosterone is also like high as fuck, you know, it would be ridiculous. So this is completely on point, saying like it's normal, like you should expect a high estradiol if you have a high testosterone. It'd be worrisome if you didn't, to be honest.
Like, it can make it harder for you to lose fat. It can make you extremely fatigued. It can kill your libido. It can actually decrease your bone density. That's why I personally don't take anything any longer to block my estrogen. This number is fine with me. I feel amazing.
Yeah, so as far as estrogen modulation, there are going to be certain individuals that do need to intervene, but there are a lot of lifestyle modifications and things you can do before you have to resort to like the last ditch pharmaceutical, you know, nuclear protocol, which would be an aromatase inhibitor. So, you know, most people are just going to be too fat. They're injecting too infrequently. You know, a myriad of different things that can be problematic in a diet standpoint, lifestyle standpoint, sleep hygiene standpoint. All of these things are going to culminate into perhaps inhibited estrogen metabolism, increased amounts of aromatization due to the amount of fat you're holding, the increased amount of aromatase enzymes. Like, there's all this shit that needs to be considered before you just haphazardly jump on an anastrozole and think that, oh, you know, obviously I need this. It's like, no, maybe you're just fucking too shitty at trying to be healthy and you're just popping pills in order to fix a problem that you brought upon yourself. So it's more of a band-aid, not fixing the root of the issue. So in general, most people on TRT, unless you have inhibited estrogen metabolism because of literal like gene mutations or something that you actually need in order to metabolize estrogen correctly, or some sort of, you know, organ deficiency or some fucking shit, most people are going to be able to handle the amount of estrogen from a TRT dose just fine. Obviously, there's going to be token individuals who that does not apply for, but for the majority of people that, you know, are on TRT, this would be the case where an AI is typically going to be a band-aid rather than actually getting to the root of the problem.
All right, it is time for the juicy stuff. This is what you've been waiting for, the reproductive hormones. So his
testosterone looks high as fuck, but interestingly enough, it is being measured in picograms per milliliter instead of nanograms per deciliter. So we shall see. We might have to do a manual conversion here.
Top number you see here is my free testosterone. It's 251. It was 252, basically the same, and that makes sense. I haven't changed my dose, and I felt great in September. I feel great now.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure first he was talking about testosterone free because I saw this ... and I assumed that's what it would be and it was just cut off. But I wanted to make sure it wasn't total before I made my comment because this looked really weird seeing a picogram per milliliter in the 200s for what might have been a total. And I was like, what the fuck? So with a free, this is one of the things I don't like about how the labs will use different, not only units of measurement, but in addition to that, the reference ranges are so variable based upon different kinds of calculations that they use to determine their frees, which is really annoying because you'll get a LabCorp test result and then you'll try and compare it to a Quest test result or something. And it'll be like wildly different to the point where even highly qualified individuals don't know what the fuck they're looking at. So like here you see a testosterone free that's high with a range of 35 to 155. If you think about this logically, let's say everyone uses the same total reference range. We have, roughly 250 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter for the total. Everyone uses the same unit of measurement. Everyone uses that same rough range. So logically, 2 to 3% of your total is free test. So if we have, let's say, 1,000 nanogram per deciliter total test levels, 2 to 3% of that, what are we looking at? We're looking at about 20 to 30 nanograms per deciliter. Would be decent, would be good, But this, he has a range of 35 to 155 picograms per milliliter, which is a multiple of 10 higher than nanograms per deciliter. So even if you divided this by 10 to get to nanogram per deciliter, the reference range doesn't add up to what it should be. Like this indicates that a normal free test level is 3.5 nanograms per deciliter to 15.5, which obviously is not the case. Anybody on TRT at a reasonable dose would be well above that, even if their total is still within the therapeutic reference range, even with a normal SHBG. So this, I just don't like interpreting these things that are like wildly different. Like why are you using a different unit of measurement than what we're using for our total? Like it's just confusing for the person who's looking at it, So anyways, yeah, it's high for this test reference range and how they extrapolate their calculation in order to make this conclusion here. But in general, if you were going to look at this logically, you would think a 20 to 30 nanogram per deciliter is what you would be otherwise shooting for. Around, obviously, depending on what how aggressive you want to go on your TRT.
The funny thing is, if you scroll down, you can see that my sex hormone binding globulin increased to 51, and that's not a good thing. This is your SHBG, and what it does is it binds to your sex hormone, so it eats up a lot of your testosterone if the number's too high. And one reason I think that went up is because, like I said, my lifestyle factors haven't been great in terms of diet, sleep, and stress. And as part of my supplementation not being on point, I have not been taking my boron every day, and 9 milligrams of this a day can help keep that SHBG down. So I got to get back on track. But even so, it doesn't make sense. If that goes up, you would expect the free testosterone to go down, which it hasn't. And that's why if I scroll down, you guys are going to see my total testosterone shot up.
So SHBG going up to that degree, like his lifestyle must be pretty fucked, because it's like you're going pretty hard against the grain if you're pushing your SHBG up while you're on exogenous androgens with a 1500 total. Like that's pretty hectic. So this guy must be stressed as fuck. And yeah, that total is high, dude. Almost 1500, maintaining the same free. That's a fucking high total, that's for sure.
To 1459. And I know some of y'all are watching this right now thinking, David, you supraphysiological fuck, you're lying to us. You're not doing TRT, you're blasting. You're doing a cycle, bro. What's wrong with you? I want y'all to take a deep breath and hold up for a second.
That's what everyone on my channel is thinking.
I need to explain this. I did not change my dose, but my total testosterone increased.
Dude, I can't even imagine having to like get out, move a camera in order to do my next sentence. Like this guy is dedicated to improving his to high quality, dude. Like imagine if every like paragraph I like got up and like moved my camera to a different side of the room.
Testosterone increased. How did that happen? Well, I have a hypothesis. So as y'all know, my dosage has been 175 milligrams per week, and I inject every other day 0.25 cc's into my belly fat. That's called a subcutaneous injection using a small little insulin needle. Not sure if you guys can see it, but it looks like this. Now, as time went on, I noticed that every couple months I'd get like a hard lump in my belly, and it wasn't painful, but it was kind of annoying. So after I did some research, and I got to give a shout out to the TRT and hormone optimization channel, I saw some videos where, they basically explain this is common, and that's one reason it's better to do intramuscular injections. And after seeing that video, I I still use the small needle, but they kind of informed me that you can use this small needle and still get deep enough to hit your intramuscular layer if you inject into your deltoid or down here. It's kind of like the side of your hip. This is called your ventroglute. Like the muscle sits a little.
So the ventroglute, this is the most overlooked and best shot location you can use, in my opinion. It holds the most oil. It's the most well tolerated. It has the least problematic post-injection pain. It doesn't literally cripple you if you end up with a bad shot. And if you get an infection there by chance, it's like the least problematic place ever. Like if you get an infection in your fucking quad, in your shoulder, in your somewhere, it's not good. You know, you don't want that to fucking happen. You want it in a spot that literally is nearly meaningless to you, hence the side of your ass. So this is my favorite shot location and is what I use for my TRT too. And the idea, it's quite the spot to pause on. Fuck, my bad. But like, yeah, you get shallow intramuscular is ideal, and is what I do too. And that is what I think is the best, most well-tolerated way to administer TRT, because you're using such low volume, you can get away with using an insulin pen and doing shallow intramuscular and not end up with too much oil where it's problematic. But you can still get deep enough that you don't, like literally shooting oil into belly fat is never a good idea in my opinion.
And I haven't seen research, but anecdotally they mentioned that when you switch from subcutaneous to intramuscular, your body can actually uptake more of the testosterone. And like that has to be what happened. That's the only thing that's changed that would cause, you know, an increase in my total testosterone. So my plan now is to decrease my dose down to 150 milligrams per week. That should bring the total testosterone down, get my lifestyle factors back in check. That should bring the SHBG back down. And
you're fucking with the pharmacokinetic profile of the drug too when you're administering it into fat versus intramuscular. So there's that to take into account as well. So actual release into the body is going to be at a different rate if it's in fat versus if it is literally in muscle tissue, because oil does not agree well with fat. You know, there's a reason you do water-based stuff sub-Q in your belly fat, and then you do oil-based stuff IM, even if it's shallow IM. But yeah, in general, like regardless of the absorption time difference or trying to factor it out or extrapolate any of the kind of reasons why it may have been higher versus lower, IM is the way to go in my opinion.
And ideally, I'll be using a lower dose, but still maintaining the same free testosterone level. And that's a win-win situation, right? The higher dose you use is always going to lead to more side effects and more potential, you know, cascading effects down the line with other hormones, which is bad. That being said, I'm about to hit a little push workout. I'm going to take you guys through the whole lift with me. And then after that, I want to talk about a negative side effect a lot of y'all have been asking me about. And I think, unfortunately, I might be starting to experience this. So stay tuned.
All right, let's fast forward to that part.
Earlier in this video, I referenced a negative side effect I want to talk about, and that is balding / hair thinning / receding hairlines. And it's funny to me because this is probably the #1 side effect guys are worried about when considering HRT or any anabolic, even though realistically it's like the least serious negative side effect. Like higher blood pressure or worse cholesterol levels is a way worse for your health.
For sure, even though these are organs, they are essentially dispensable at the end of the day. What do they really do? Protect you from getting a sunburn on your fucking head? Like that's pretty much it. Keeps you a little warm. Like it's pretty much it.
But you don't want to lose your hair. Like it sucks. And it's a real risk because when you increase your testosterone levels, some of that's going to convert to DHT, which can, you know, increase the hair thinning in your scalp. Now, personally, this is not something I was really worried about going in because I've always had like a really, really high hairline. I've had thick hair, but it's always been pretty high up. If you take a look at a photo of me from before starting TRT, as you can see, it's pretty high up there. Last time I gave you an update on TRT, it was also pretty high up there. I didn't notice a change. And even if I'm showing you guys right now where it's at, has it got any higher up? Like, realistically, I'm saying no, maybe like a couple millimeters in the corner, but it's hard to say. That being said, lately I've been stressing a little bit because a couple times I've gotten out of the shower, my hair's been wet, and I've been like, I think I see a little bit more scalp than normal. Is my hair thinning even though it's not receding? I don't know. So what I did is I got this hair catcher for the shower, and this is a tip from More Plates, More Dates. That's a YouTube channel. The guy Derek who runs it has an extreme knowledge of like hormones in the body. He also has some pretty extreme delts on him. But if you're someone who's interested in hair loss, I recommend checking him out. And the idea is you put...
Hey, thanks for the shout out, bro. Appreciate it.
You put that in the shower, yesterday I did this for the first time, and I intensely scrubbed my hair, and the idea is you see how many hairs came out. And when I looked at it, it was about...
Man, this is dedication. You actually took a fucking video in the shower.
15 or so, not too many, which from watching his channel means that it's probably just a normal level of shedding. It's not androgenic alopecia. That being said, it's a very small sample size. I've literally only done this one time.
Okay, so I forget what the video I did was. It was like how to tell if you're shedding versus androgenic alopecia. It was an old video, by the way, so let me see if I can find it. All right, so where was it? I think it was this one, how to test if your hair loss is androgenic alopecia or temporary shedding. This, actually, if you go to my Google article, dude, Google's so messed up. I literally type in my exact article name and I can't even fucking find it. More plates. There, fucking goddamn Google algorithm. So this article here, if you go to it, and by the way, my articles are far more in-depth and elaborate than my videos. So if I have an article up, if it's a recent article, it's essentially perfect. You know, I have some really old ones from 2016, 2017 that I would just, you know, they're less, they haven't been updated. So some of the stuff is outdated, but the more recent ones like this, for example, you know, I have literal citations in the articles. They're all broken down into concise subsections. It's very palatable and it contains literal clinical research that reinforces my statements, and then you can kind of dig into the clinical literature yourself to learn more and whatnot, rather than just listen to me on a video if you want to dig into it more. So anyways, this, where is it, dude? Is this the article? Okay, here we go. So how to distinguish androgenetic alopecia and chronic telogen effluvium. So this study here, distinguishing, literally what it's called, actually breaks down exactly how you would do this in the shower. So this is not something you would do like on a daily basis. Rather, you let it build up a bit and then you actually, well, if you want to read the actual way you would check, you do this. And then you actually count the hairs. And if you lose more than 100, or if you lose less than 100, that's how you distinguish between androgenic alopecia and telogen effluvium. But then above and beyond that, the literal lengths of the hairs, that is how you are going to indicate if it's miniaturized via androgens or not. And if you don't have miniaturized hairs between a certain proportion relative to the total hairs shed off your head, then you know you fall within, you know, like a reasonable cutoff. That's a normal amount of hair that is just finishing its life cycle and is not miniaturized hair that is, you know, prematurely being lost essentially. So the goal is to shed less than 100 hairs per shower and also have less than 10% of those shed hairs be 3 centimeters or less in length. So the less miniaturized hairs you shed, the better. And it's obviously a crude way to assess if you're experiencing male pattern baldness or telogen effluvium, but it's interesting and gives you a good baseline metric to reference as you start implementing hair loss prevention protocols. And the reason being that it's 3 centimeters or shorter is that they found when hairs are 3 centimeters or shorter, they are called vellus hairs. Hair diameter was determined to be an irrelevant metric to look at because diameter and length proved to vary in parallel. So the shorter the hair, the thinner it was too. So measuring the length proved to be all that was necessary to make a diagnosis in this study. So if you want to see the actual breakdown in order to figure out how to count in the shower and then figure out of those counted hairs, like you only have to do this once. It's not like you have to do it every fucking shower. Just like, you know, the next time you shower, ideally have like at least 1 day between your next shower that you're not literally doing like back to back, like you showered, you know, the night before and the next day at like the afternoon, you're doing like a premature shower where you have like less than a representative amount of hairs falling off your head. Do like a normal amount of time. Don't comb your hair and shit and like get a bunch out beforehand that could fuck with the readings. Do a normal shower, have the hair catcher there, and then do this and test it out and see where you fall. And again, this is just a rough gauge. I honestly would not say, oh, you're safe if you fall within the, you know, safe parameters. I would still be proactive, to be honest. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like you're fucked regardless, in my opinion, unless you're Ronald Reagan, of course, or one of the genetic phenoms that Ronald Reagan, I don't know, has Ronald Reagan-esque genetics. But like for How to Beast, he would definitely benefit from a hair loss prevention regimen because he's definitely not safe if he's already noticing recession. Like it's just a matter of time. Ticking time bomb, unfortunately. So it's kind of on him if he wants to get on top of that or not, but that would be, you know, an ASAP thing to get on.
The smallest sample size. So it's something I'm going to continue to monitor because I know they say when you notice hair thinning, you've probably already lost like 20% of your hair follicles.
Yeah, once you've noticed it, like you're pretty far gone, you know? You've already the likelihood that you'll ever get back to baseline, like perfection teenage levels, almost zero. But you can make a decent amount of recovery if you get on top of it right away, which is like fucking yesterday, dude. So I would get on top of that if you care about it at all, because it's not gonna get better. It's not gonna stay the same. Maybe it will for a while, but it's a slow progressive process and it's insidious as fuck. And one day the Norwood Reaper will indeed come and fucking slice your head off.
So I'm gonna be, continuing to test this and monitor this over the next few weeks. Look, it could also be that I'm 31 years old now and this was just something that was gonna start to happen regardless of TRT. But
yeah, it's gonna happen regardless of TRT because you have endogenous testosterone, DHT being produced too, but you can still intervene with pharmacology. It's not like you just have to be fucked because you have testosterone made from your balls, or you're injecting it. There are ways to get in front of it.
But let's say that I monitor this some more and I come to the conclusion I'm starting to lose my hairs. Well, the best option is just to hop on Finasteride, it's an oral pill. I think 1 milligram per day is the dose, and it limits the conversion of testosterone to DHT, which is gonna stop the hair thinning as much.
So yeah, that would be one of the main treatments to do off the bat for sure, especially if you're on TRT, the likelihood that you will encounter any side effects is low. And if you did, you could always just manually backfill certain pathways anyways because you are on exogenous hormones anyways. So yeah, for some individuals too, by the way, 1 milligram, even though that is the standard prescribed dose, you can get away with as low as 0.2 milligrams to assess your response to it. Like maximal DHT suppression from Finasteride starts at a very low dose. Like you don't get much more suppression even at 1 milligram, even at the 5 milligram Proscar dose for benign prostatic hyperplasia. You don't get that much more DHT suppression than you do at the 1 milligram dose. So you can go as low as 0.2 and start there and then assess if you have any negative side effects and titrate up accordingly if you want to. But some people only need that and they can get away with that and be fine. So it's not like you're forced to take 1 milligram either. That's just the standard that most doctors will throw you on because that's what Propecia brand name is dosed under per pill.
Another side benefit for me is that I believe it can shrink your prostate. And I'm someone who goes to the bathroom 1 or 2 times per night, so probably help me sleep better too.
Yeah, dude. Actually, yeah. So benign prostatic hyperplasia is what the 5 milligram Proscar is prescribed for. And if it's literally waking you up and fucking up your sleep, like if you have to get up in the middle of the night every night to piss, that is ruining your sleep quality. And I would definitely look into that.
The downside is DHT is an important androgen in your body that, it helps with libido, and sometimes people can lose their sex drive or their ability to get erections when they get on it.
Dude, when you're at supraphysiological tests, the likelihood of that, fucking zero essentially.
But from what I understand, because I'm on TRT and I have...
Man, this guy's just repeating exactly what I'm fucking saying. I don't even need to talk.
Have an abundance of free testosterone in my body, it can pick up the slack.
Holy shit, this is exactly what I say.
So it's less of a chance that's gonna happen. But I also don't
pick up the slack, exactly.
Don't want to add another drug into the mix.
I like how we just switch sides of the couch, It's a lot of I don't know, the thought process into making this more artistic and creative is definitely put into it.
That affects my hormone levels if I don't absolutely have to. Right now it's just testosterone and I really like the simplicity of that. On one hand, I'm not someone who's overly emotionally attached to my hair. I think I'd be completely fine shaving my head. But on the other hand, it'd be kind of nice to keep my hair. I also do YouTube full time. I'm on camera all the time, so it's something to consider. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only new updates I have for y'all.
So something to consider about that is with Finasteride, you can always come off it whenever you want and recover your DHT levels within short order. The half-life's 8 hours or something like that. And you can recover your DHT levels within a couple of weeks easily. With your hair though, you can't recover that in a couple of weeks. It's fucking gone once it's gone basically. So with Finasteride, you can always just come off, and then get back to whatever the hormone profile is that you deem to be optimal. But with the hair thing, if you're on the fence where it's 50-50, definitely favor the one that you can't recover long term over the one that you can fix in a fucking week, So I would pick the hair in his situation if he's literally 50-50 on it, especially on TRT. But that's me personally and my own, preferences too.
If you're curious about the different side effects or results or other things from my experience, I'll link my TRT playlist below. I think there's like 6 or 7 videos. I did like every 3-month updates during the first year of TRT, so make sure you check that out. If you're still watching the video, I appreciate you, bro. Hit the...
All right, good vid. So anyways, that is my thoughts. Let's dig through the comments a bit and see how many times me and Greg got mentioned, because I bet we're in here. Let's see. In case, no, more plates, more dates needs to analyze this. I will be waiting for Derek's take on this. LOL. Why do I feel like there's gonna be a response video from Coach Greg? And more plates, more dates. Let's see. Plates for dates. The dad who wants to be liked by the kids. Who's that? Eric Ty. Oh, Scott Herman. Timestamp for hair loss. That's funny. Killer. What's up, guys? Derek here with moreplates.moredates.com. I'm pretty sure I don't even say that. What's up, guys? Derek, more plates. I don't even fucking say this, so this is an incorrect quote, my friend. So anyways, that is the video, and hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you have some practical takeaways from that. Like, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Couple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, including my TRT clinic. It's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. We have patient care coordinators and doctors on staff who I've vetted personally myself, who understand this stuff in elaborate detail and represent the highest quality information on the entire internet, in my opinion, when it comes to telemedicine and testosterone replacement therapy, as well as hormone replacement therapy in general, and more nuanced scenarios like finasteride, intervention concurrently with testosterone, how to attenuate side effects should they present themselves, how to predict with good accuracy if you're going to encounter side effects on finasteride, even irrespective if you're on TRT or not, stuff like that. You're not going to find experts in that kind of shit anywhere else, so check it out if you're interested. Anything else I'm associated with? Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas I designed myself from scratch, my recommended lab test panels, and anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.